Oh, it's so good. Hey, everybody. I finished up all of these podcasts that were recommended to me by great celebrities like OJ Simpson and Harvey Weinstein and Woody Allen and those other people I mentioned a long time ago, but I can't seem to remember. And now I'm moving on to some other great shows. And this time I'm listening to them on Spotify because Spotify is the best podcast platform, and I can listen to all of my favorite shows there. Ooh, I love it so much. And also, SiriusXM has podcasts, and I listen to SiriusXM podcasts there, and it's the best, and nobody's left out. And I get to listen to all my shows on both of those platforms because it's so easy, and because I'm bombarded with them all the time. I love it when I open up those apps and I get the podcast right in my face when all I want to do is listen to music. So I'm going to get back to it, and I'm going to continue enjoying these podcasts.
It's news time. Delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the more podcasting news that you didn't know about. Podcasting is a big hootenanny over here in the living human realm. That's what I call my life. And we're never going to get rid of how podcasting is widely accepted as essentially the new radio, because podcasting killed the radio star. Yes, it's exactly what's happening right now. Spotify is trying to play catch up to Apple by releasing its own podcast user rating and charts and such. Spotify is starting last year, in fact, or excuse me, last year they introduced new ratings for podcasting, and obviously this year they introduced paid subscriptions. But if people are now able to rate their favorite podcast and right there on the app and really join in on the fun. Then they also have more acquisitions in the podcasting world. If you didn't know, Spotify acquired Gimlet and other podcasting platforms and studios and whatever, and in order to make podcasting a part of their big whole wide goal of that being the only audio app that you would ever need. They bought Hushaka, which is a 6-year-old Australian company that helped radio broadcasters monetize and make money over on the Australian radio network and the likes like that. It's a big move for Spotify because they want to be able to continue making money and make even more money for the fledgling, I guess, again, there's that word, audio platform. But when it comes to podcasting, you have to and audio in general, you have to make sure that you have accessibility options for everybody. And SiriusXM has learned that the hard way, where they're now being sued because they don't have podcast transcripts or they have a lack thereof for the hard of hearing. Yeah, you can essentially sue for anything now. The SiriusXM, which owns Pandora and Stitcher, is accused by the National Association of Deaf and Disability Rights Advocates for excluding deaf and hard of hearing by failing to provide captions or transcripts for any podcast. Which I think NPR has a lot of transcripts for its shows. I don't know if the New York Times does, but this does make sense in the end because they do need to be able for everybody. I don't know if I just watched the Bruce Springsteen interview and Conan O'Brien interview of Howard Stern. I don't know if they have captions, but it would make sense since they do have the videos and they take a long time to come out after the audio. They're requesting this lawsuit for podcast service operators to really consider accessibility when it comes to the people who want to listen to their show or even watch the podcasting shows. I think they're just trying to set an example, and Sirius is the one that you go after in terms of that, which makes sense. Speaking of things to go after, why don't you go after a subscription to hear and watch one of our other videos? Of course, you can head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where there's at least 2 podcasts you can listen to, and me talking to famous people. You can follow us online on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at cpluscomedy. Follow me at Chad Black White. Listen to the Constitutionals podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and I promise we'll get those accessibility features in when I get listeners.